first great triumph was having made it through the hardship of sleeping in a tent. So having survived this great ordeal, day 2 we started to get a fantastic view of what awaited us as we climbed up the hill. We're already at a couple of thousand metres.
I'll tell you what, my jaw dropped. I was like, oh wow, that seems so far away and so big. We're going to do that in 7 days? God help us. That was my first thought for real.
I blame the Backstreet Boys. And he's 17.
Physically, I've got to tell you that the amount of sleep that I got, I had hardly any sleep. So I reckon less than 3 hours sleep. So I was really tired, but I didn't acknowledge it. I just just carried on. I didn't want to tell anyone that I didn't sleep. I didn't want to make a big deal about it. So I just carried on, but it did have its effect on me. So although I was upbeat, I was not like I was on the first day, asking questions, finding out about people. It was more like, yeah, I've got to get through this day. I'm gonna enjoy going to sleep tonight.
Love you, Lee.
The truth comes out.
As we were climbing, basically, I did struggle, I must admit, and I did sort of like slow down a little bit more than most of the group that moved forward faster.
So the first peak is Shira.
It was amazing with the skies, the sun out, and the mountains in the backdrop. I thought, yeah, it's going to be good. It's going to be tough, but it's going to be good.
Yeah, okay. Whatever.
I don't think they're going to use that.
This is cruel, Lee.
Bloody right it is.
I think I started getting a bit, I don't know, if it was, again, I wasn't too enthusiastic after some time. Then I started falling behind the group again. But it was a tough climb. Not too tough, but it was on the tougher side. Not as scenic as the first day, though. I don't think it was as scenic initially. But obviously, once you get into the clouds, it was beautiful.
Give us a smile, Catalina.
I think the toughest part of that day too was I began to start feeling it. I started feeling the pain of, I don't know whether it was altitude or it was the climb. The exhaustion was probably setting in at that point. And also it made me slightly sad, knowing, I know I signed up to this, but also knowing what the people around me were going through. I think I was more affected by the porters, to be honest. And I thought everything else was trivial at that point. So as much as I wanted to do this climb, it made me slightly sad.
Day two interest levels are still high, energy is still high. We were quite lucky to have good food and everything, and our guides were really good. So it was actually not that difficult.
Which is good, because normally it goes ginger, so it looks slightly more manly.
I'm giving him a hug. I'm jamming him up. Oh, go on, please now.
Oh, we're going to have to rub it everywhere.
As the day progressed, if you've never been to this altitude, to have the clouds below you is amazing.
Cheers.
It's like having, I don't know, so you're at the top of the hill looking down towards the sea, and the clouds were like the sea, and then you could see other peaks like poking up above it. So those were like islands, and it was so picturesque, so amazing. And if you haven't seen that sort of scenery, you'll be blown away by that.
I remember feeling like a little bit of frustration because we're going really slowly. So like in Kilimanjaro, they tell you like this pole to acclimatize. But again, I'm an impatient person, so I just wanted to like get there as soon as possible.
Yeah, Jumbo. Here's a smile, boys.
It was okay. It was steep, but I was okay with that. I think day one, the climb sort of got me prepped up and warmed up for it. It was definitely tough. Quite a lot of rocks, and it was quite hard on the ankles, and physically it was it was quite challenging. But mentally, I was like in a zone. After the first hour, I didn't think of anything else. I was in my zone. I was happy and yeah, it was cheerful, but there were lots of times where I was reflective and just focusing not on the pain, but everything else around me to try and forget the pain.
So the weather is incredibly changeable. The weather can be 1 minute quite hot, it's quite nice, you're wearing a couple of layers. Then from nowhere, this mist just starts to roll in over, and that mist is cold. You then, you have to wrap up quickly. Then before you know it, you've kind of had a day of fair weather, and then the heavens will open.
And as we were reaching the top where the next camp was, we basically started getting into a cloud and it was becoming very misty.
Physically, I was tired towards the end of the day. I just wanted to get it over with. You know, it was what, it was 7 or 8 hour hike.
Well done, Tanya, get on board.
After walking for several hours, sleeping in a tent with pouring down rain, it's a pretty cool way to go to sleep. Oh, is it?
Yeah,